India's AI challenge, building sovereign language models that work. For years, the world's most powerful artificial intelligence, AI, models have spoken in English. Trained on sprawling datasets like Wikipedia, Reddit, and Common Crawl, models such as OpenAI's GPT-4, Google's Gemini 2.5, Meta's Llama, Microsoft's Bing AI, and Anthropic's Claude have mastered the dominant global internet dialect. But they all falter when faced with the linguistic diversity of countries like India. Current sovereign models, Sanchit Gogia, founder of Greyhound Research, explained, lack deployment maturity, robust safety mechanisms, and domain-specific accuracy. The Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 survey found that 67% of enterprises exploring Indic LLMs report frequent failures in multilingual task execution, especially with mixed scripts, e.g., Devanagari plus Latin, identifying regional slang, or recognizing emotional cues in customer queries. Further, language in India is hyperlocal. Hindi spoken in Varanasi differs significantly from Hindi in Patna, not just in accent, but in vocabulary and usage. A health insurance aggregator in Bengaluru faced real-world fallout when its LLM couldn't differentiate between dard, pain, and pita, suffering, leading to claim errors. The company had to halt rollout and invest in regionally tuned data, Gogia said. Moreover, there are limited safeguards against hallucinations. Without deeper fine-tuning, cultural grounding, and linguistic quality assurance, these models are too brittle for nuanced conversations and too coarse for enterprise-scale adoption, Gogia added. The ambition is clear, but execution still needs time and investment. Nonetheless, API access alone won't cover costs or deliver value, Gogia of Greyhound Research said. Sovereign LLM builders must focus on service-led revenue, co-creating solutions with large enterprises, developing industry-specific applications, and securing government-backed rollouts, he suggested. Indian buyers, he added, want control over tuning, deployment, and results. They'll pay for impact, not model access. This isn't LLM as a service, it's LLM as a stack. As quoted in livemint.com. In an article authored by Leslie Dmani, Shovik Das published on June 17, 2025. Beyond the media quote, our view in full. Pressed for time? You can focus solely on the Greyhound flashpoints that follow. Each one distills the full analysis into a sharp, executive-ready takeaway, combining our official standpoint, validated through Pulse data from ongoing CXO trackers, and grounded in field notes from real-world advisory engagements. What are the limitations of India's sovereign LLM ambitions? Greyhound Flashpoint. Sovereign LLMs in India are a bold move, but not yet a turnkey solution. According to the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 62% of AI leads across public and private sectors say current Indic LLMs lack the deployment maturity, safety benchmarks, and generalizability needed for enterprise-scale use. These are promising foundations, but still early stage when it comes to code mixed fluency, dialect consistency, and inference stability across domains. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, sovereign LLMs face structural limitations that go beyond dataset scarcity. Many current models suffer from shallow fine-tuning, inadequate guardrails against toxicity and hallucination, and limited support for industry-specific prompts. While models like Sarvam's 22-language offering are directionally correct, the real-world applications, from regional product search to digital health Q&A, demand a deeper interplay of cultural semantics, edge inference performance, and compliance governance. As it stands, sovereign LLMs are often too brittle for conversational edge cases and too coarse for domain-specific accuracy. Greyhound Pulse. For the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 67% of enterprise respondents trialing Indic LLMs report frequent failures in multilingual task handling, especially in scenarios involving mixed scripts, e.g., Devanagari plus Latin, regional slang, or emotion recognition in customer queries. Enterprises report that while some models excel in static summarization tasks, they break down in dynamic workflows involving user intent, local references, or real-time decision support. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a Bengaluru-based health insurance aggregator, an Indic LLM deployment for claims pre-screening failed to distinguish between dard, pain, and pita, suffering, across Hindi dialects, resulting in misclassification of policy queries. The vendor had to pause deployment and invest in custom tuning using regionally annotated corpora. This incident illustrates a broader concern. Sovereign LLMs require extensive linguistic QA and contextual grounding before they can be trusted in critical user-facing applications. Open source or closed? The real question is control with accountability. Greyhound Flashpoint. The debate over open versus closed-source LLMs misses the nuance of enterprise readiness. According to the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 66% of Indian CIOs favor controlled open models, i.e., models with open weights for transparency, but tightly governed fine-tuning and inference layers. This hybrid approach enables visibility, safety, and legal defensibility, especially critical in consumer tech and regulated sectors. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, fully open-source LLMs are attractive for community learning, but rarely enterprise-ready. For both state and private sector deployments, the key concern is not openness per se, but operational integrity. Enterprises want models that can be audited for bias, patched for security, and maintained under SLA. Closed-source APIs raise control concerns, while unrestricted open models raise safety concerns. The future lies in permissive but protected, similar to Meta's Llama model family, allowing innovation without compromising accountability. Greyhound Pulse. For the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 71% of enterprise technology leaders will only adopt sovereign LLMs if they are backed by clear licensing terms, transparent training data disclosures, and enterprise-grade support. Only 18% said they would trust a fully open, community-maintained model for customer-facing deployment. Safety, not ideology, is the deciding factor. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a large digital payments firm, engineers trialed a fully open-source LLM trained on Indic data for chatbot use. Despite strong performance in basic tasks, the model exhibited toxic responses in edge queries, including Castius language. The firm subsequently shifted to a licensed sovereign LLM with moderation controls, sacrificing some model flexibility for reputational safety. The conclusion: openness must be tempered by real-world safeguards. What business models will sustain India's sovereign LLMs? Greyhound Flashpoint. Token pricing won't fund India's sovereign LLMs. Integration will. According to the Greyhound Sector Pulse 2025, 74% of enterprise buyers across BFSI, e-commerce, and telcos say they prefer bundled deployments, vertical fine-tuning, and outcome-linked pricing over usage-based APIs. The monetization arc must mirror India's IT services DNA, not Silicon Valley SaaS. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, sovereign LLM builders must pursue service-led monetization, co-innovation contracts with large enterprises, vertical IP layers, retail, law, health, and government-backed deployments. Standalone API calls cannot sustain costs or satisfy buyer needs. Enterprises are looking for deeper control, from fine-tuning pipelines to domain context, and will pay not for model access, but for business results. Think of this less as LLM as a service, and more as LLM as a stack. Greyhound Pulse. Per the Greyhound Sector Pulse 2025, 68% of CTOs and digital heads surveyed across Indian unicorns and traditional enterprises say they are more likely to fund LLM engagements if the vendor offers localization, tuning, and support bundles tied to performance metrics like NPS, seat safety, or task resolution. Only 21% showed interest in purely transactional API consumption. Greyhound Field Note. A D2C fashion aggregator found that switching from a global LLM to a sovereign model trained on local fashion terminology, e.g., kurti, anarkali, lehenga, and Hindi-English mix led to a 19% boost in voice search-led conversion. The vendor offered the model as part of a commerce language pack, not as a standalone API. That's the future. LLMs as embedded capability, not external infrastructure. Will sovereign LLMs function like OpenAI via APIs? Greyhound Flashpoint. Sovereign LLMs will support API access, but with architectural distinctions. According to the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 63% of Indian enterprise technology leaders want sovereign LLMs that go beyond cloud endpoints, supporting hybrid deployment, edge inference, and fine-tuning on-prem. For India's market, the future of LLMs is not API only, it's API also. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, while sovereign LLMs will offer developer-friendly APIs similar to OpenAI, their defining differentiator will be deployment control. Indian enterprises, especially in regulated or latency-sensitive sectors like BFSI, healthcare, and telecom, need LLMs they can host within private environments, fine-tune with proprietary data, and run at the edge. Pure cloud SaaS APIs are insufficient when data residency, inference speed, and security compliance are non-negotiable. This is especially true for real-time use cases in rural or low connectivity regions, where fallback modes and local inference engines are essential. Greyhound Pulse. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, only 29% of Indian enterprises prefer a token-based API model for LLM consumption. The remaining 71% cite the need for predictability of costs, latency optimization, and backend observability as reasons for preferring containerized or hybrid deployment options. This shift is particularly evident in sectors with high request volumes, such as e-commerce during flash sales, where API rate limits or cost unpredictability can erode user experience and margins. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a logistics tech firm operating across eastern India, the team piloted a cloud-only LLM API for regional chatbot workflows. During seasonal traffic peaks, the model response latency exceeded 3.2 seconds per query, breaching SLA thresholds and causing user drop-offs. The team replaced the API with a sovereign LLM container hosted at regional data hubs, reducing latency by 41%. The broader takeaway: sovereign LLMs must offer deployment elasticity, not just feature parity with Western APIs. Regional versus language. How will sovereign LLMs handle India's linguistic complexity? Greyhound Flashpoint. Sovereign LLMs must learn to speak not just languages but regions. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 65% of CXOs deploying AI in consumer-facing roles say that dialect drift and regional code switching, like Tamlish, Hinglish, or Marwari English, are the biggest limitations of current LLM deployments. Language coverage alone is not enough. Contextual fluency is the next frontier. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, sovereign LLMs in India cannot succeed by treating languages as monoliths. Hindi in Varanasi differs from Hindi in Patna, not just phonetically, but semantically. For businesses, this translates into dramatically different customer intents and satisfaction outcomes. A successful sovereign LLM must therefore learn to interpret sociolinguistic subtleties, register shifts, formal/informal, and embedded cultural references across geographies. This demands fine-grained regional training data, emotion-aware tuning, and speech-text alignment at the dialect level. It's not a model per language. It's a language model per linguistic culture. Greyhound Pulse. For the Greyhound Sector Pulse 2025, 62% of AI product teams report user friction arising from poor handling of code mix language, region-specific idioms, or colloquial commands. These limitations degrade the quality of search, customer support, and task automation workflows. Many firms now consider regional variation not as an edge case, but as a core design requirement. Without regional tuning, language support becomes a checkbox, not a capability. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a Tier 2 focused OTT platform in West India, a global LLM failed to interpret regional Marathi-English hybrid phrases during voice search. The platform saw a 22% drop in search-to-play conversion rates. After switching to a sovereign model trained on subtitle corpora, dialectal speech data, and regional slang dictionaries, engagement rebounded to pre-rollout levels. The signal is clear. Sovereign LLMs that understand region as deeply as language will win India's AI adoption curve. Analyst in focus. Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst, innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder, and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thoffer.com.